Welcome to the Brothers and Sisters podcast. This is what's coming up next, so stay tuned.
And I think the conversation needs to lend to, we as women, we're coming into these spaces that are primarily ran by men, and they have this type of culture. And then the word consent, like what does that mean? What do boundaries mean? What does it mean if you feel like maybe this is the regular way we behave, but have you asked a woman if that's okay? Have you talked to the women around you, trying to figure out, how does that make you feel? Because from your perspective, it may not be something so serious, but amongst us women, we have story for days.
I think one of the biggest stories that happened, at least this week, uh, was Bill Cosby. So go. Like I don't think I need to say anything else. I'd love to be able to preface it with a story or something like that, but Dr. Bill Cosby is out now. Some people are rejoicing, some people are not. Others
this morning, sorry.
Others are just throwing around legal terms that they have no understanding of, and like people are like, what's going on?
Well,
So you guys can attack it any way you want to.
Well, I think this morning, just to add kind of flavor to the conversation on NPR, they were really talking about how his overturned conviction is going to be viewed by sexual assault survivors. Sure. And then also particularly the comments by Felicia Rashad, where we know that the majority of students in their freshman and sophomore year are victims of sexual assault. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of talk this morning about sexual assault survivors, but what does this really mean for the sort of Me Too movement? And is this the beginning of kind of a backlash to this movement? So just adding that to the conversation.
Sure. I think, he was the first celebrity tried in the Me Too era. He did 2.75 of the first celebrity tried and convicted of Me Too era to serve time. He did like 2 3/4 of his 3 to 10 year sentence. I wrote about this. I'll probably post it on the write-up. Basically, my point is we all know how the criminal justice system, what it means for Black people, particularly Black men. And we don't need like an 83-year-old Black man in prison. I just want us to be precise with our terms when we talk about he's innocent or he's been exonerated. Like, that's not what happened at all. It's literally, and I think Walter and I had this discussion the kind of sort of Black men thread that we're on the side. You can be happy, you can be ecstatic that he's out, while still acknowledging that, he kind of sort of told us that he was a rapist. And by kind of sort of, I mean he told us he was a rapist.
I don't think that he is not guilty, right? He was guilty, full stop, right?
Yeah.
But the district attorney or the prosecuting attorney fucked up, right? Prosecuting attorney told him, if you admit to what you did during the civil case, it cannot be held against you. So he went by that agreement and admitted what he did.
Side note,
that guy died, right?
Yeah, side note, that prosecuting attorney was one of Trump's impeachment lawyers.
Yeah.
Cosby made a deal with one of Trump's impeachment attorneys when he was the DA. What that Bucks County or Montgomery County was?
So much winning. Ooh.
And
he went to and they used that deposition.
The liberal guy did. The new liberal guy coming in used that.
Cleaned up his mess, and to me, that was wrong. However, there are 3 justice systems, I'd argue, in America. There are 3. There's one for white people.
Yeah.
There's one for Black people.
Yeah.
And then there's one for rich people.
Yeah.
Because that situation, if it was any of us or anybody we know, we wouldn't be getting out of jail.
No.
And there's so many cases of where prosecutors do terrible things, where police break the law and their shit isn't being overturned. They don't have that money. They don't have what Cosby had. They don't have those resources. So I can understand maybe, yeah, I mean, it's if it was just the average Joe, I feel like it would be something that we can definitely celebrate. It's setting up a precedent, setting up the fact that you won't be able to get that held against you, but it's not simply that. It's because that man has long money.
Yes.
And I honestly believe that all this came about because if I remember, maybe this was just in folklore, but I'm pretty certain that he was going to make a move and attempt to buy a TV station.
That's what people were saying.
That's a mad conspiracy.
Yeah, that's what people were saying.
People always say that.
He got $100 million.
People were saying.
Oh, this was about to buy this station, about to buy this.
I don't know. That's why I posed it in the way that I did.
Yeah.
But it was a very weird time for that to happen, right?
Well, I mean,
we
don't know. I mean, there's so many coincidences, right? Like
exactly.
that was kind of sort of the rise of Hannibal Buress, right?
Yeah.
He's making Cosby jokes, and he's like, I don't know why y'all laughing. Y'all can just Google this stuff, and people start Googling. It's like, hey, this guy's settling out.
So, I don't know.
And again, the response to Hannibal Buress is kind of sort of how we got here, right?
Yeah.
Like that, and the judge who released the deposition, that in the pound cake speech, right?
Yeah.
He posed himself as a public moralist. He responds to Hannibal Buress with I've never been involved in anything that's being alleged about me, and then the judge is like, whoa, like that's a public gag order you're violating. I'm gonna release this. And lo and behold, I wrote about it, right? You read the transcript, it's like, this motherfucker is getting drugs to get a woman to have sex with. And he's talking about consent. It's like, hey, I know all about consent. Non-verbal cues. Hey, she had an orgasm, so she wanted it. It's like, okay. It's like, this is tricky, Mel.
I wish you would stop giggling when you say these things.
I'm sorry, like this stuff is so funny to me. Not rape, not people getting shot, going back to the Megan segment or whatever, just like how people throw these things out there. And it's like, man, like it's almost Dunning-Kruger, right? You think everybody knows the same things that you do, and like they don't at all. And it's like, man, people are like, that's not rape. Rape's got to be violent. And I'm like,
no.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a lot of black people, man. I need y'all to have better role models.
And
passed in the state, was it Texas? They said that once you have begun intercourse, you can't change it.
You were talking about that. Yeah.
That is crazy. But I think the Cosby case kind of speaks to something that we don't necessarily want to talk about. We kind of get uncomfortable talking about in our community. There's a lot of, sexual assault, molestation, all those things that go on in our families that we push to the side. We ignore them.
It's another burden that black women carry because black men have it so hard or whatever, so we won't talk about rape and sexual assault.
Black boys go through it too, but it's just, we don't talk about it, and it's still fresh, and it's still something that lives with our grandmas and our older aunts. We don't talk about it, and it kind of speaks to how people still love on R. Kelly. Like, it's just crazy.
But listen, that was like 15 years of my childhood. You can't bring that up ever again. I'm not allowed to bring that up.
But he was able to rise. He was able to rise it still with a lot of other black men, women knowing what the fuck he was doing. So,
well, let's go back to Michael Jackson. So these are open secrets, and it's almost like we're afraid to say a word because they're talented.
Mike Jack was molesting anybody though.
Was he really? Was he really? Because we worked on that documentary. So yes, he was. Yes, he absolutely was. Yes, he absolutely was.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're the videos that are there, and they're the wedding rings that he gave children, and they're the parents who left with Yeah,
There's no doubt about that.
and there were the parents who left their children. There were the maids who had to sign non-disclosures. There were the sex rooms all over his home and in his backyard. So no, yeah. So no, it wasn't oh, he was a child or he didn't understand. No, he was raping kids. And the stories of survivors are very much the same, which is typical for sexual offenders. They have the same mode, the same grooming, and the same ways that they get off. So yeah.
So the last doc I saw was with the two dudes or whatever.
Leaving Neverland.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, and like they tore that one apart where they're like, well, this wasn't true, and like that wasn't true. So it had me thinking. But once you said
the reality of this is like, this is my work. 1 to 3% of people lie about being sexually abused.
Yeah.
And when they do talk about being sexually abused, the only reason their story changes is because they don't believe that they're going to be believed. And so like young children will often change their story because they want to be affirmed by the adults in their lives. So they'll say things like, is that right? Is that okay? Because they don't know better. But it usually takes about 7 times before a child discloses. And the average age of disclosure is 41.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 41. So that means that right now we have statistics that tell us 1 in 6 girls, 1 in 8 boys in the United States by the age of 18 years old will be a victim of child sexual abuse or some form of sexual violence. And those are only those that disclose.
Yeah.
So the numbers are much higher.
And that's what I was thinking about. So many women came forward with Cosby, and that's kind of what liked it for me, because I'm thinking, there's probably double who didn't.
Yeah.
So it's just, and then to drug someone that may not even know that they were drugged. Like, it's just, what he did is just on creep like 10,000. Because one, he didn't have to.
Yeah.
And you're just taking away so much from
it's
and it's like Matt Lauer. Remember, it's like, I don't understand these men, Harvey Weinstein, all these. You're in positions where women would, but of course it's about the power of it.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I always struggle with is, why does it take a dozen women before we finally believe that it's the truth, right? Why does it always have to be like 10 women also substantiated that this happens? One should be enough.
But in our families, when your little niece is saying, yo, mommy, my uncle, grandma's like, nah.
No, he couldn't. You misunderstood.
So I'm gonna play this. I'm strictly playing the devil's advocate.
Oh, this is my favorite role that you play. Yes.
Because both sides have to be exposed, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How many men have to hear that they've sexually assaulted someone when they haven't, because the woman's after something? How many times does that happen?
How many times do you think it happens?
I can tell you, you're looking at one.
Are you ready to open up about that, sir? Or do you want to say that for later?
Yes, it happened. Right? And there is no retribution. Right? The woman has nothing to pay for lying. Nothing. Ever. Other than ruining somebody's life.
Okay.
So for me, unless there's evidence, proof positive that shit happened right then, I'm not riding with it. Sorry, can't.
The issue with that is that it's always
20 women, and I probably would believe it.
There's
But
never
if
evidence
one
in
woman
these
is
kinds of
waiting
crimes,
for you to
though,
say
right?
something, I'm sorry, sis. I can't. I know too many men, that have gone through it and deal with it and carry the weight for shit that they didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But who's gonna believe them? You gonna take an 18-year-old black man on stand with a 19-year-old white woman on stand? She says he took advantage of him and he didn't because they were boyfriend and girlfriend? Who's gonna get believed? The 6'1", 225-pound football player, or the 125-pound cheerleader whose family got money? Who they gonna believe?
No, America is designed to protect.
And it takes your lawyer to push her on the stand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going for it unless there's proof positive. Sorry.
There's never going to be proof positive, though. Ever.
And because there's not,
it's going to be one person's word versus the other.
So then there has to be evidence. And if there is no evidence, then there's no evidence.
If there's no evidence, does that mean it didn't happen?
Trump never went to jail for shit he did because there's no fucking evidence. He never left the fucking.
He didn't go to jail because he got money.
Mm-hmm.
Or he left no paper trail.
Yeah.
Right? If there's no trail of evidence, you can't prosecute a crime. Is there murder if there's no fucking body?
But I think that's the issue though, because this type of crime, like there isn't going to be evidence. It's going to be one person's word versus the other. Well, that's the issue, right? That's why we have trials to try the facts, right, and see what happens.
No, and I think you raise very good and very valid points, and I think everyone in this room respects your honesty, and I'm always arguing with you for fun. Okay, it's my favorite activity, so you really are my brother. So yeah, what you're saying is very, very true. And we need to balance that. And that's why I think when we have these conversations, it can't just be specifically, and hear me out, because it's, it gets late and I lose brain power, but it can't just be this, it's also the externalities of what you're talking about, like race and the dynamics and the power dynamics and the, maybe I don't want my daughter dating a black guy, and maybe that's it. And I want to make sure that she's not listening to Megan Thee Stallion and owning her hot girl summer with black guys, right? We have to own that. And I just think what happened to you is disgusting. It shouldn't have happened. It's shameful. I'm sorry you had to go through that. If we knew her, we'd fuck her up for fun. So that's one. But two, I think the issue for this conversation specifically is for every you where it shouldn't happen. And we should make sure that we are giving true and honest and fair, trials and opportunities for retribution, for restorative justice to you, because that pain was real. We could hear it. But I think we're talking about the Cosbys, right? The Cosbys who are even in even greater dynamics of power, who actually literally don't have to do anything. I mean, when he was like selling Jell-O and saying kids do the darndest things, I bet there were like 35-year-old women like, here I am, and here's my kid, and what do you need?
And his wife was there the whole time.
And Camille was just like, okay, baby, okay.
Well, that's where I was gonna go next, is the role that women play in this, right? So we have Felicia Rashad's comments, right? Which Aunt Viv fired back on, right? Which I thought was fascinating.
Which Aunt Viv?
Dark back Aunt Viv.
Okay.
The one.
Chocolate Aunt Viv.
The real Aunt Viv.
The one that actually looks like Marcy, if you ask me, that Aunt Viv.
Oh Lord, there's enough Marcys in the world. That's my mother for.
She was when Felicia Rashad made her comments, she was like, she knows personally 5 women that Cosby assaulted who didn't come forward, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, after Felicia had her tweet, which she didn't turn her comments on for that, right? She had to issue like a follow-up tweet where she got ratioed, right? That was one of the worst ratios I've seen in quite some time. And then Howard made a statement today, right?
Yeah.
Saying that her tweet was insensitive.
Separate they still from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she's still going to be, I think she's going to be the Dean of the Arts and Sciences Department, right?
Dean. Yep.
I'm noticing a lot of, and again, some of you may have familiarity with this and some not. There's a lot of, I guess, that protection you were talking about, Shantae, where Black women just kind of sort of put it aside. I remember a while back we were addressing Chris Brown. I didn't want to. You want to take it?
I
still have post-traumatic stress. I can't go down.
You're still PTSD from it? Okay. Chris Brown's defenders are women. Like overwhelmingly women.
All he needed was a big brother. He could have hired me to beat his ass. That's all he needed. He didn't need nothing else. Right?
Didn't he just get arrested for assault again?
Chris Brown's a junkie though. Again, that's again, if you have a drug problem.
I feel like I read it last week. Like he's being charged with assault.
Like he's a full-fledged junkie. But my point.
Well, I used to troll him for fun. That was my activity. I would just troll him. Like, keep your hands to yourself, Chris Brown.
Yeah. How does fans feel about your trolling?
Honestly, some were not happy. But I enjoyed it. I'd be bored and it'd be like, what's Chris Brown doing?
Keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, but his defenders are overwhelmingly women. There are a lot of women.
Yes, he just got accused of hitting a woman in LA.
Yeah, there are a lot of with Cosby, I'm seeing, at least in my timeline, which is obviously anecdotal, it seems to be more men than women caping for Cosby, but there's still a healthy amount of women caping for him also. What do we think about that? Is that rape culture, or is that, us, protecting our own?
At what point is when he's, how old is he now? 83?
Yeah, he's 83.
So what penalty is he going to serve?
No, that's what I wrote. That's what I wrote in the piece, right, Walter? Like,
what penalty is he going to serve? What's he going to do?
Now, and it's kind of an OJ situation too, right? In the sense that, like, even though you're free and walking around, people are gonna look at you like, you probably did that shit. And in Cosby's case, we know he did it. He told us.
It ain't a problem. He did it.
He told us.
It's a challenging situation, man. Justice required that he go to jail, and he went to jail, and he went blind while he was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He did?
Yeah,
he did. He's legally blind,
living in darkness.
Yeah, he's legally
kind
blind.
of like the women on the Quaaludes that he raped.
So the universe seemingly corrected the problem, right? But how much flesh are you trying to exact? Did he get it down? In the twilight years of his life, he had to pay 3 years to society.
He did.
And what about the women who were raped and have to live with that for the rest of their lives? What is 3 years for not being able to have?
I don't have an argument. I can only tell you how much flesh can you take from them.
Wait, can you say that line? I don't have an argument
for that. I don't.
Are you sick?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. But how much can you take from them?
I just don't. The thing that gets me about these Cosby situations, these R. Kelly situations, it's like these men took everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they took everything. So why are we comparing, asking about, or giving them grace or whatever? Like, oh, they did their. No, the fuck they didn't. It's not.
I'm not making an argument that he did.
It's not enough.
The question is what else? Like R. Kelly, he's probably never going to get out of jail.
Right? I hope he doesn't.
He'll probably never get out of jail.
Good, and I hope he learns to read in there too.
And then it's the enablers. Like we got all these enablers that should be in fucking jail too.
Well, that's what we're talking about, though. But a lot of enablers are paid, right?
All the enablers, the people that
are around them,
that believe in the work, or they believe in the person, because this type of behavior didn't start today.
No,
this behavior didn't start last year. This shit's been going on for 25,000 years. It started in Greece.
And I think
it's not new.
I think particularly when you talk about the work, Walter, and the person, then I was talking about this. A lot of people still look at Bill Cosby as Heathcliff Huxtable.
Exactly.
And it's like, he could never do such a thing. These women wanted it and stuff like that. It's tough. A lot of women on my timeline sharing their stories, kind of like you just did, Walter, share your story. And it's emotional. People they have real feelings at stake here. And so
having to live your life and being unable to have a conversation with a woman because you're a supervisor and she is your direct report, and you can't say you fucked up the same way you tell a guy you fucked up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he sexually assaulted me. He verbally assaulted me. And that same crying attitude that you discussed earlier comes into play. Oh my God, were you too aggressive? Look at you, you're a big black man. So what? I mean, it's literally the same type of argument. Yeah. And for me, that shit plays in my mind during those types of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So when I was direct report and had 30 people working for me, I couldn't have a one-on-one counseling session. I always had to have a female manager in there just to cover my own ass.
Yeah.
So how do I look to the other managers in the company?
Well, now it's legitimate, right? Now, I mean,
but
how it is, yeah. Like I don't have.
Years ago when I was working for somebody else.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
There's a stigma that's attached.
I worked in an overly masculine industry. I was in the car business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And any woman that was in the car business had to be aggressive. And if she fucked up, you gotta be able to tell her that, yo, you fucked up, and you can't do that. So how do you in those same types of situations, right? Oh my God, he was too tough with me. So now the owner of the dealership has got to make a decision.
Yeah.
So all those things are kind of all in the same bowl. They're all mixed together in the same problems, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to, damn, it ties all the way back to our tenureship, right? You know, our workers protected, our people protected from shit that can happen every single day.
It also ties into the whole criticism and the academics and Megan Thee Stallion. It goes forward throughout. Just as somebody who's important in making sure the legalese is straight, because this happened to you as a young man, it's been completely expunged, correct?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. 2, Cosby, the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court ruled his conviction unjust because of a legal doctrine called promissory estoppel. Nicole Walter talked about he was given a promise that if he was completely honest in his deposition, he wouldn't be charged. He talked about all the shit that he did. It was a verbal agreement, which was not legally enforceable, right? So he made the agreement originally with the guy who's a Trump impeachment lawyer. The liberal prosecutor who then took over was like, I read this deposition, probably like the rest of us, like, damn, this guy's a rapist. Right. And so that the statute of limitations was literally
about to running
out in days. And so he's like, politically, this works for me. This is a pretty scandalous crime. Probably upon appeal, this is going to be dubious, but oh well, like, it's good press for me, right? He does it. Obviously, it's pretty open and shut when you read the deposition. He's getting Quaaludes, which were illegal at the time, for a bad act from a shady doctor in LA, which he gave to women, quote, like you would offer one a drink, unquote. So if people don't know what Quaaludes are, that was 70s, 80s, like super powerful party drug, sedative.
Wolf of Wall Street, just watch it.
Wolf of Wall Street, think about that, exactly. And so that's where it was. It was a 4-3 decision, and now he's out. So that's the legalese of it. I guess to wrap it up, or maybe we won't wrap it up because this has been fraud. And Walter, I'm glad you shared that. You said you were going to on your own time, and I'm glad you did.
Do you feel comfortable with this being shared, Walter? This is just the social worker in me.
I'll talk to Claudia about it afterwards to figure it out.
Okay.
But, you know, the challenging part that I have with the entire thing is being unable to believe people wholeheartedly, right? You know, if something like that happened 30 years ago, even the other lady, even the lady that accused Trump, he had a bandwagon of women.
Bernie?
The one recently.
Carol, we got a couple.
It's so many. Sorry, please.
So many. Yeah.
It's. I was watching I guess it was a satirical movie, and it had an example of a lady who a guy touched on the shoulder, was like, "Hey, are you okay?" Oh my God, she thinks to herself, "Did he touch me? Did he assault me? Did he do this? Did he do that?" How many of those situations are part of the women that were assaulted by these men?
Oh man,
you understand what I'm saying? It's
a lot of it is timing though. Like I look back at things that I even used to do in the workplace where I'm like, damn, like that's probably sexual assault. Like,
but you know, and I don't want to mitigate that because like it really, I mean, you know that I absolutely care about you and I also love giving you shit. So that is part of this. But I also think about lived experience as a woman and how often there have been moments where I have felt, not even in the workplace, like, you know, I feel like, and Shantae, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like my life is a series of decisions of like harm reduction. Like, do I go down this way? Do I, you know, as a woman who works, you know, in a nonprofit, is a donor dinner, right? Like I've had to now, like, you know, I travel a lot by myself and I have to think about, now I have a rule. I only do lunches, right? Because dinner gets really shady. When someone says to me, do you want to drink? And we're talking about $1 million donors, like that gets uncomfortable. And there are moments where, there's, for every you that it's not true, there are moments that cross the line. And I think if you speak to any woman, there are times where maybe it didn't go all the way, but there have been times where you felt uncomfortable where, I remember, please don't share this, but I remember being at Penn and someone bursting through the bathroom that I was in and trying to lock the door.
Yep.
And thankfully nothing happened, but I mean, these are moments and it makes you stop. Yeah.
And I think the conversation needs to lend to, we as women, we're coming into these spaces that are primarily ran by men, and they have this type of culture. And then the word consent, like, what does that mean? What do boundaries mean? What does it mean if you feel like maybe this is the regular way we behave, but have you asked a woman if that's okay? Have you talked to the women around you, trying to figure out, how does that make you feel? Because from your perspective, it may not be something so serious, but amongst us women, we have story for days, for days on days on days.
So the question, as a former business exec working in a company, how would a person navigate that, right? The way that you deal with the female employee has to be so different than the way you deal with the male employee, right?
Yes, and no, because I think we deal with it as women, like Black women, you're being too aggressive. I mean, I made a white woman cry today. She's probably writing me up as we speak. So it's, yes, maybe it's you being an aggressive Black male. For me, it's being an aggressive Black female.
But the difference is, here's the difference. I'm on TV every night, beating, raping, killing, and shooting. And that's the perspective that those people that the majority are coming from, right? I am to be feared, right? I'm the one that's unarmed on TV, getting shot, left laying in the street, right? And the first question isn't, oh my God, was he a student? Was he a teacher? Was he an instructor? No, what did he do? Yeah. What did he do to deserve to get killed? Not why did the cop kill him? What did he do? Right? Not the cop did something wrong.
It's the same for women too. What was she wearing? What did she?
Yeah. Well, why was she out that late? What did she think was going to happen when she walked in there?
I don't disagree. It's an unfortunate thing that our society is divested and ripped down and poured down to all those places, because I got to tell you the truth, I've lived a lot of different places, right?
Yeah.
It don't happen in Europe like this, man.
Sexual doesn't happen, or how we deal with it.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. I mean, I've worked in Europe. I work with I don't know.
I honestly don't think that it is the same as it is here.
I could say it may not be the same as it is here as a man, but as a woman, a Black woman who works in Europe, we are extremely fetishized. Mm-hmm. And there is a genuine lack of respect for Black women everywhere, but especially in Europe. So I would say, to your experience, I validate, I hear, and affirm you, but that may not be the same for all genders.